A famine of fries. Canada's sudden potato export ban plunges U.S. into agricultural crisis, ***. In a stunning and unprecedented move that has sent shockwaves through the North American food industry. The government of Canada has implemented a complete and immediate ban on all potato exports to the United States. The decision, which came with no prior warning, was announced late last night, citing a devastating new agricultural pathogen discovered in Prince Edward Island, Canada's largest potato-producing region. The abrupt halt to a multi-billion-dollar trade relationship is set to create a severe supply chain crisis, leading to a potential famine of fries and skyrocketing prices for one of America's most beloved staples. The official statement, released by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, CFIA, identified the pathogen as a highly aggressive and fast-spreading strain of potato wart, a soil-borne fungus that deforms potatoes and renders them unsellable. According to the CFIA, this new strain, designated Syncytium endobioticum canadensis, is resistant to current fungicides and poses an existential threat to the entire North American potato crop. The agency stated that an immediate and complete ban on all potato products, including fresh, processed, and seed potatoes, was the only viable option to prevent the disease from crossing the border and infecting the massive U.S. potato-growing regions. Prime Minister of Canada, during an emergency press conference, framed the decision as a painful but necessary measure. "This was not a decision we made lightly," the Prime Minister stated, his voice heavy with gravity. The potato industry is the lifeblood of communities across Canada, especially on Prince Edward Island. But the long-term integrity of the North American potato industry and our food security as a continent are at stake. We have a moral obligation to act decisively to contain this threat, no matter the short-term cost. The short-term costs for the United States, however, are projected to be enormous. The U.S. relies heavily on Canada for its potato supply, with over 90% of all Canadian potato exports typically destined for its southern neighbor. This dependency is particularly acute in the processed potato sector. Canada is the world's leading exporter of frozen French fries, and a staggering 91% of those exports, valued at over $2.4 billion, go directly to the American market. Fast food giants and frozen food producers across the U.S. now face a critical supply shock. "The phones have been ringing off the hook since the announcement," said John Harrison, a supply chain analyst for a major American food distributor. "Our clients, from the biggest fast food chains to regional grocery stores, are in a state of panic. We simply don't have a contingency plan for a complete shutdown of this magnitude. This isn't a tariff dispute, it's a sudden stop." The domestic U.S. potato crop isn't nearly large enough to fill this gap, especially in the processed food sector, where Canadian processors like McCain and Cavendish Farms have dominated the market for decades. The economic fallout is not limited to large corporations. Small businesses, restaurants, and food service providers are bracing for a major crisis. "We're completely reliant on frozen fries from a Canadian supplier," said Sarah Chun, who owns a chain of burger joints in the Midwest. "We have maybe 2 weeks of inventory, and our distributor just told us to expect a 40% price hike and a massive shortage. We can't just switch to a new product or supplier overnight. This will absolutely cripple our business. We may have to stop serving fries, which is half of our menu." On the Canadian side, the ban is an act of economic self-sacrifice that is already generating a mix of anger and grim resignation. Potato farmers in Prince Edward Island, a province where the potato industry contributes over 55% of total farm cash receipts, are facing immediate ruin. "Our entire harvest is effectively worthless if we can't sell it to our primary market," said Kevin McLeod, a fifth-generation potato farmer from PI, his voice thick with emotion. "We understand the need to protect the industry, but we were given no warning. We just finished planting. We've taken on loans based on our expected yields for the American market. This is a complete disaster for my family and my community." The diplomatic fallout between Ottawa and Washington is also expected to be significant. While the ban is rooted in phytosanitary concerns rather than political or economic protectionism, The unilateral and abrupt nature of the decision has reportedly angered officials in Washington. The U.S. Department of Agriculture and Trade representatives are said to be in emergency talks with their Canadian counterparts, seeking a more targeted approach, such as a regional quarantine, rather than a blanket ban that punishes all of Canada. However, Canadian officials maintain that the new, highly virulent strain of potato wart requires a full border shutdown to prevent catastrophe. Historically, agricultural trade disputes and bans have occurred between the two nations, but none have been this sudden or all-encompassing for such a major food staple. The recent past has seen temporary bans on certain products due to concerns over BSE, mad cow disease, and smaller-scale potato wart outbreaks, but they were often limited to specific regions or varieties. This time, the fear is of a biological weapon that could wipe out the entire industry, if not contained. Trade experts are warning that the long-term implications could extend beyond the potato market. This incident, while triggered by a biological threat, highlights the extreme vulnerability of our integrated supply chains, noted Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a professor of international trade at the University of Toronto. It shows how quickly a single, shared agricultural product can become a source of profound economic and diplomatic friction. It could force both countries to reassess their deep reliance on one another for food security, potentially leading to a fragmentation of the North American food economy. As the dust settles, the immediate future for the potato industry remains deeply uncertain. For U.S. consumers, it means higher prices and potential shortages of a beloved comfort food. For American businesses, it means scrambling to find new suppliers and facing significant financial losses. And for Canadian farmers, it means an unimaginable economic catastrophe. The potato, that most humble of crops, has suddenly become the most volatile element in North American trade, and the fallout from this unexpected ban is only just beginning to be felt. The world is watching to see how two of the world's closest trading partners navigate this unprecedented crisis.